Your hips are essential for martial arts, but you probably find yourself doing the same handful of stretches every day, stretches like this or like this. Nothing wrong with these stretches, but considering that you need your hips for stances, for kicks, and to just generally move around, you probably find that some of these stretches engage your hips in different ways compared to others. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 of my favorite stretches I did for wushu that targeted my hips, specifically the inner thighs. I'll start with the common stretches you probably do in class, and then show you stretches that I like to do when these usual stretches just don't seem to do it. And here's something special. There's so many tips and tricks out there about holding your breath or using a resistant band. I'll show you these stretches that you can do right now as you are watching this video with no equipment needed. And if that's not enough, I'll show you additional variations of these stretches if you want to engage your hips in a different way. Number 1, the straddle stretch. This is what it looks like. There are days after a session of squats, I find myself here. This might even be the lowest you can go. Normally I'd say go and just do a different stretch. But if you insist on doing the straddle stretch, I would say do this instead. The wall straddle. Line up your butt against the wall and place your legs up in the air. Let the legs drop down into a straddle position. Now you can point or flex your toes, but for the most part, allow gravity to do the work. Now you want to go as low as you can where it's not painful, but you still feel the stretch. Now if this gets easy, move on to this. Use your hand to bring your chest up as close to the wall as possible. Now some of you might be like, yeah, that's cool, but this is kind of weird looking. I'd rather go off and do the butterfly stretch than just go on to the straddle. Now I want to be clear, nothing wrong with the butterfly stretch. I think it is great for all levels. I even find myself doing this as a default hip stretch. But I've seen so many people do this stretch without making any progress and quite frankly, not really stretching anything at all. And there are times when you're outside and you just finish a run, you don't really want to go on the floor and bust out a butterfly stretch, do you? Instead, I would go on and do a deep squat stretch. Reach down like you're doing a hamstring stretch. And if you can grab your ankles, even better. And if not, that's okay. Keep your elbows inside your knee and push your elbows out against your knee and let your butt sink down. And from there, you should really feel the stretch on your inner thighs. Now here's another variation if you want this to be dynamic. You can go from the hamstring stretch into the deep squat stretch. Now don't rush this. Let your body feel each muscle stretch out as you go through the moves. And the second variation is you stay down on the deep squat stretch, but start lifting up your toes and feel your hips move around. Now some of you hardcore folks might look at this stretch and be like, psh, I'm all over that floor. I'm one with the floor like a frog, doing the frog stretch. And you know what? The frog stretch is great to open up those hips. But here's the thing. It requires other components of your feet and your ankles to line up in order to actually feel the stretch on the inner thigh. It also hurts my knees when I do this on hardwood floor. Call me a wuss, whatever. But here's something that stretches similar muscles that doesn't put the same pressure on both knees. The half split. This is one of my personal favorites. You keep one leg bent and tucked in, not too different from a frog stretch. Now extend out your other leg and keep it straight. And here, I just let my body sink down. Now you can focus your stretch on the bent leg, but I honestly feel it more on the straightened leg. And I love this stretch because it helps me isolate the stretch to one side. It's very useful if you have any imbalances. Now here's a variation. Some people like to turn this into a dynamic stretch by going in and out. I don't really do that as much, but I do like the elevated version of the half split, so it gets used to the middle split angle. Now you might think, well, why not just do the middle split? The half split is just a half measure. Now the middle split is probably the standard most people would want to achieve with hip flexibility, right? But that's the thing. Not everyone is at the point where their attempts at the middle split even stretches the right muscles. You might start feeling pain in areas like your joints and even your toes, and that's not the type of pain that you would want to feel in a stretch. Now you can go back to the half split, or you can try out this other stretch, which is the lateral lunge. This is very similar to the deep squat stretch. You start with your legs spread apart, and then you sit down on one side. Grab the ankle of your bent leg and push your hip out. And ideally, you should feel the stretch on both hips. If that gets easy, try this version. Sit as far down as you can. Your goal is to get your butt to your ankle. The great thing about this stretch is that it can be a hip stretch for the bent leg, but it can also be a good hamstring stretch for the straightened leg depending on how you angle it. Now, if you like these videos on stretching, check out these other flexibility related videos for martial artists here.